Hello everyone and welcome back. Today I want to show you a massive change Wargaming implemented to World of Warships in their most recent update. With this change, you can massively reduce the load on your computer while sitting in port, and you retain full unlocked frame rate while in game. This is massive, especially going into the summer months when I think all of us would like to reduce the power and heat going into our rooms from our PCs. And with this relatively simple change, we can do just that. So to do this, all we need is to find the game directory. You can do this very simply by going to your game's launcher, clicking on game settings, and show in folder. Now that we're here, this is where your World of Warships client will be installed, and we want to scroll down to find the preferences.xml file. You can open this in Notepad, which is included in every Windows install. And then once we're here, we can do Control F, type in frame. This will get us to find where the max frame rate is. And here we can see the change. This now contains max frame rate and max dock frame rate. This is a massive change, as before we only had max frame rate, which applied everywhere in World of Warships. Now we get this additional option to reduce the frame rate while we're in port, which is massive. It is no secret that the port is the hardest part of the game to run, and naturally, this results in more power being used by your graphics card, which results in more heat being dumped into your room. Especially in summer, it is very nice to reduce that power consumption, especially in port, where it doesn't really matter too much. So I would suggest that you leave this dock frame rate at 60 FPS. That's probably a good enough number to save a little bit of power, but still have a smooth port experience. You could run this all the way down to 30, maybe even 45 FPS if you have a G-Sync monitor, since most of those tend to have a cutoff around that 40 FPS at their minimum, and you'll still have a very smooth experience. For me personally, I'm going to leave the dock frame rate at 60 since that's what I want to record at, and I still want to save a little bit of power. On the other hand, I'm going to leave max frame rate at 144, since that is the maximum refresh rate of the monitor I'm using. I'd recommend you set this to whatever your monitor's maximum refresh rate and leave it there. Now that we've finished putting in our new numbers, we can save and exit. You can click Ctrl S, or you can go into File and Save. Once you've done that, just close the window and you can launch back into World of Warships. You should now see that your changes have applied and your dock refresh rate should match whatever number you input. The best part about this is when you launch into an actual battle, your frame rate will go back up to whatever you set the max refresh rate to be. This is an excellent change, and I'm very, very happy Wargaming has done this. It's a wonderful quality of life improvement for their game. I'm sure some of you are interested in how this affected my PC, so let's start with the 60 FPS results. We can see there's not a huge change here. The full unlocked FPS has 204, 206 watts used, and the 60 FPS cap in port is around that 190 watt range. So not a massive difference, but given the relatively small change in FPS and that with these settings at 4K, the port is still pretty demanding at 60 FPS. If you're wondering, I have this game basically maxed out at 4K. A few of the anti-alias settings have been turned down, like FXAA has been turned off, and I'm only running 2x MSAA. Overall, a pretty decent result, but let's see what happens when we drop it to 45 FPS. There we go, finally a big difference, down into the 150 watt range. This is going to produce so much less heat into my room, and honestly, I would probably put it at 45 FPS if I wasn't doing a lot of recording. Of course, at 4K 60 FPS on these YouTube videos, I really want to be rendering the game at 60 FPS or above. But if I was just hanging out in Discord with some friends and I just happened to be sitting in port for a while, being at 45 FPS wouldn't be a big deal, since G-Sync would keep things relatively smooth for me, and I know I'd enjoy having a much cooler room. And now let's take a look at the 30 FPS results. Here we're down under 130 watts. This is a huge power, and especially heat savings into my room in summer. I wouldn't really recommend going much lower than this since the port gets very, very laggy. And of course, I'm not sure what the limits of this game engine is. It's possible the game starts crashing at lower frame rates, but the power savings are pretty significant here. I still would recommend probably around 60 FPS to have a comfortable, smooth port experience while retaining a bit of power savings. So a bit of a different video today, but I figured this was important enough to make a full dedicated video on. I'm pretty hard on wargaming most of the time, but I really do want to point out how player-friendly this decision is. This really isn't going to gain wargaming any money. This is just a player-focused change to the game and addition. It probably took some development time, and it really helps out us as players of the game. So that's about it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. And for those of you curious about my temperatures on my graphics card, that's what 360mm radiators can do. It's pretty nice, although it does mean more heat gets into my room quicker. So a bit of a trade-off, I guess. Thank you very much for watching again, and have a great rest of your day.